News Radio. I am Charlie McGrath. This is hour number 2. Thank you for hanging out on our long break there. Joining us now is Freeman Burt. We've had him on the program a number of times. Initially it was to talk about his bravery in confronting TSA in Denver National Airport. We've covered that story a couple different times on here. So tonight we're going to stick to basically whatever Burt wants to stick to. However, we did touch on Burt is in the greater Denver area, and he was talking a little bit about the utter freak show that is going on down there. Snipers set up in all kinds of random places and carnival atmosphere without a doubt. And it's all for show. It's all for the dog and pony show to make the people believe that they have a say in their future. They have a say in this republic. And I use republic air quotes. And the fact is we do not. And truthfully, Burt sent me a link for the Department of Justice. And I want to get right into this, if you don't mind. I'm going to read he told me to read what's at the top of the banner. And, we're going to let, Freeman Burt break this down for us. The common law, this is at the top of the Department of Justice. In fact, I'll put this in the chat here in just a sec. The common law is the will of mankind, issuing from the life of the people. That's a nice sentiment, Burt.
Yes, it is. And, I was kind of surprised that I actually, saw this because I was looking for information relative to the U.S. attorneys. They make it very difficult for you to find their licenses because they don't want you to lien their licenses, so they make it very difficult for you to get those numbers. But yet all private attorneys are supposed to put their bar numbers and all that out in the open. But anyway, I may have to subpoena their license numbers. But this was pretty interesting because what I'm finding out, the more I keep dealing with the courts, dealing with the legal law.
Yeah, and Burt, let me jump in because before we get 10 minutes into it, and I don't announce what your passion is. Let's first of all, let me tell people your YouTube channel is Do Not Consent 83. And Freeman Burt has taken it upon himself to open his mind and do research and study and learn our true air quote legal system. And he's not only learning about it, he is confronting this system and helping people confront it as well. A lot of documented instances. Well, I shouldn't say documented. A lot of confirmed instances where you truly help people stand up for their rights, for their freedom, and that's what brought you onto the program. And so it's always great to get you to come on here and talk about your latest endeavor, what you're working on in order to assert your freedom.
Yes, and that's what I'm doing. I mean, I've been researching for probably 15 years or more. And have researched extensively during the last 2 to 3 years, and now I'm getting close to the point where I'm almost doing this thing full time, and I'm actually fighting in lower court, county courts, state courts, and federal courts. And the funny thing is that the more we get into this thing, the more we find out that the foundation of legal law is actually common law. But then what's common law? There's all kinds of different ways that people look at common law, and the legal system wants you to believe that common law is the decision of judges, and that's not true. It can be if you look at it from a legal point of view, because there actually is such a thing as state common law and federal common law. And some states have outlawed common law, but the common law that they have outlawed, which is what people don't get, is they have outlawed their legal common law.
Right.
They cannot outlaw the common law because that would be like outlawing God.
Right. It's nothing that can be given by man. It just is.
Yes, you can't do that. And the common law is just basically the decisions accepted by the majority of the people. You know, like I can't go up to you and just slap you and then walk away and think that that's okay. No, that's not okay. You know, that's not acceptable. But putting it into a more practical form, common law is the unwritten common law, which is that law that is decided on by a jury of 12 free people. See, 12 citizens do not participate in common law, but 12 free people do. That is what is real common law. And those people impaneling that 12 man or combination of men and women, but man using it as meaning both men and women,
right,
is composed of real people. Real people make a determination on the situation that's before them without any thought of legal law, because legal law is just corporate codes. Human contract, human interaction, that's what common law is supposed to be. And this particular website is justice.gov, and then what is that, / or /? For this website?
It's just justice.gov, and I put it into chat.
But it's a / afterwards.
None of my browser. It just says justice.gov. You mean, are you referring to the common law is the will of mankind issuing from?
Yeah, so people can go there and and look at that.
No / in Montana. Maybe it's in Colorado. Extra security measure for the big debate tonight.
Oh, maybe. Okay, so justice.gov is where we're looking at, and it's talking about the common law is the will of mankind. Now, they're making it perfectly clear there that it's not the will of the corporation, because mankind is not corporation. So they're talking about the common law of people. And then it says, issuing from the life. So this is from the everyday interactions of people, real people. Now, they capitalize the word people in here, so you kind of have to be a little careful, because in the legal system, when they capitalize the word people, they're meaning those people who are in power. People with a small p means like us, the free people. People with a capital P are not free. But in this particular statement that they're talking about here, I would safely say and assume that they're talking about us, the free people in the world. Because if you were to read this legally, it would read, the legal law is the will of persons issued from the code of the people.
Nice translation. I mean, you're translating it beautifully for us.
You know, and that's basically how it would read, somewhere along those lines. So what's funny is that within their own legal system, they're telling you, on one hand, here you're free, here's your path, and on the other hand, they say, but don't look over there, look over here, because we have a much better set of chains for you.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And the people always go for the chains.
Well, it isn't just by accident. It's certainly done by a very tantalizing allure. You know, I compare it to what we see going on in the financial realm, right? Everything is made as utterly confusing as possible in order the path of least resistance always equals the same result. In the case of the law, it results in you giving up your freedom. And in the results of our financial system, it results in us giving up our future, our financial future, and our wealth, so that very few select individuals can attain that power and that wealth. We're going to be back with Freeman, Burt, and more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Hang tight. Back to Wide Awake News Radio, Charlie McGrath, Freeman, Burt. We were continuing the discussion of that. You know, so far, 21 minutes in, and you and I literally have spent the entire time talking about the common law is the will of mankind issuing from the life of the people. You know, it's interesting. I mean, it's interesting, the perception of words. And Burt, isn't it words that we know in our lexicon, words that we use, don't necessarily mean anything remotely close to the same thing in this legal system, does it?
No, I mean, the everyday language, the language of the Bible, the language of Holy Scriptures is a totally different language than the legal language, and that's one of the first steps that I try to make very clear to people to comprehend the fact that in the legal world, you cannot speak our language and be understood. You might as well view the legal language as being written in whatever other language you want to imagine, Chinese, French, a language that you do not comprehend, because you cannot comprehend it. There's all kinds of dictionaries for that particular language. And when people go around calling themselves, for example, a citizen of the United States, they don't know what they're saying. If they knew what they were saying, they would never claim such a thing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, though, it doesn't affect their decision to use that word. I mean, even if they don't understand what they're saying when they say they're a citizen, or when corporations have when they're given the right of a person, isn't that what was the recent Supreme Court case where corporations can be viewed as a person, so there's unlimited ability to inject
funds into campaigns.
Yeah, funds into campaigns. I'm stumbling here because I'm trying to think of that case. I've talked about it.
Yeah, but see, the Supreme Court did not rule on anything new. That has been the truth since the beginning.
Yeah, and which is
exactly have always been persons.
That's right, and that's funny and accurate, because it's exactly what Eric Lovely was talking about on the program the other night. Is what the Supreme Court issued wasn't anything other than the exact truth. They were not wrong in that decision.
Yes, and another thing going along those lines, people take what the Supreme Court issues as being some kind of a law, and everything that comes out of the Supreme Court is what?
Precedent.
It's an opinion.
Yeah, it's an opinion, but I mean, isn't it one of the issues of our nation is we're not a nation governed by a law, by the common law, the natural law. We're a nation that is most assuredly governed by this precedent law. And, the Supreme Court, when they look at a case, they don't argue the common law aspect of the argument. They want the attorneys to give precedent for why they won't give an opinion one way or the other.
Yeah, but my point is that what the Supreme Court gives is opinion.
Right.
And it's not law. It's not law. The judiciary branch of the United States has no authority to create law. So, but this is kind of leading into the other thing I wanted to explain to your audience, and that is that a lot of if you look at a lot of these videos about how to protect your rights in court and all that kind of stuff, right. A lot of those videos are making a big mistake, which is, I've made it myself, which is they tell you how to talk to the judge, how to say this to the judge, how to say that to the judge. And what I'm learning is that the last thing you want to do in court is communicate with the judge.
Explain.
Like, first of all, when you hire an attorney and you go to court, what's the first thing that attorney starts doing as soon as the court hearing begins? He starts talking to the judge.
Right.
And what he does is he now just took your court case out of having any hope of standing under any kind of even legal law, for that matter, and just put it on the lap of that man up there with a black robe. Because that man there now is going to make all his rulings based on opinion, on previous opinions in other cases that have come before him. So he's going to make his decision on legal common law.
Now, are you talking, first of all, is this any circumstance?
Any circumstance.
Civil, be it criminal?
You name it.
Okay, so you walk in. Well, let's say you want to have a lawsuit. I mean, this is something that you have experience with. How do you go about the procedure?
Well, this is the thing that a lot of people have already heard this, that when you go to court, you're supposed to speak to the record. You've heard that before?
Right.
But people don't really know what that means. When you go into court and you're speaking into the record, who are you speaking to? Who's the record? The record is the clerk of the court. The clerk of that court holds the record, right? Maintains the record. So that's who you're actually speaking to.
And if you're asked the question by the judge,
you say, for the record, with all due respect, I wish to have all questions in writing.
Okay, I need to hear more. I need to hear more about how this procedure plays out. I've never done a program where we've talked about strategy in a courtroom, and we're going to continue that topic. I find it very fascinating, to be honest, and we're going to dive deep into that here in about 3 minutes, guys. Hang tight. We'll be right back. Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. Our guest is Freeman Burt, and we are, during the break, he was talking about when you walk into a courtroom, and this is the kind of information that I think that sorely needs to be shared. And I mentioned to him that one of the brightest guys I know, especially in the sovereign movement and with his legal knowledge, is Eric Lovely, but I've never broke it down with him on actions that one should take. So, for the balance of the program, the next two segments, at least I want to start out with Freeman Burt giving us examples of what to do in certain scenarios, and then show the pitfalls that people normally take in situations that are very, very common, and they're also very, very, it seems almost factory assembly line, go into court, make your plea, this, that, and the other thing, pay a fine, go to jail, that kind of thing. But let's put a scenario on the ground that many people have faced over the years. And in this case, I'm going to say, let's say you were pulled over, you're in Denver, you were at a football game, you had too many beers, and you're going to get a DUI, or whatever they call it there. So at the point of that arrest, if you want to protect your rights, what are you suggesting? Go ahead with from
Okay, well, what's the number one thing that attorneys usually tell you about when you get arrested?
Keep your mouth shut.
Exactly. And that is one of the best advices any attorney could possibly give you. Okay, that is the absolute best advice. The problem is that when they get you into court, then they throw that right out the window. Because then the attorney becomes your mouth, and all he does nothing but blab in court about your situation.
Right.
And to everybody else involved in the case. But you actually have the right.
Talking smack about you.
Yeah. But you actually have the right to keep your mouth closed the whole time. And using that same scenario of the police stuff, because I'm actually putting some instructional material to help people with the police stuff, because right now you have a much greater chance of being injured or killed at a police stop than being mugged, robbed, or anything else. So your chances of being hurt every time you confront or come into contact with those armed security guards is huge.
Right.
Okay. So that's why we want to put this thing together to help people. But anyway, taking it from a police stop from the beginning, you're in your car, you're going down the road, you see flashing lights behind you, and let's say it's nighttime. You don't know what kind of vehicle it is. You look in your rear mirror, all you see is lights. So you do the proper thing. You pull over to the side of the road. You stop, and you expect the emergency lights to go around you. But the emergency lights now pull up behind you. Now, what is emergency light? It's emergency lights. They indicate an emergency. So an armed guard comes out of the vehicle, approaches you, and says, driver's license, proof of insurance, and registration. And you're like, was that the emergency? Or you're thinking to yourself, was that the emergency? So there was no emergency. So from the very beginning, you are now being defrauded. That man pretended that there was an emergency and caused you to pull over because that's what you're supposed to do in an emergency.
Right.
So that's fraud right there to begin with. It's fraud. Okay. Then he says, driver's license, proof of insurance, registration. Is that even a sentence? No. I mean, Robert Menard from Canada, he says his response to that is apple, oranges, bananas. It makes as much sense, you know, one incomplete sentence with another one.
Right.
But anyway, so we're studying all the different approaches to do this. But if you follow the advice of the attorney that says you have the right to remain silent, keep your mouth closed, he asks you that question and you don't answer. He'll probably ask that question 5, 10 times, okay? And you're still quiet. You don't say anything. So at some point, if he wants to exercise the power that he believes he has, he might, you know, order you to get out of the vehicle, which at that point would be no different than any other burglar or criminal causing you to step out of your vehicle so that you can be robbed. It's no different. Okay, so again, you have your mouth closed. He tells you to get out. You get out of your vehicle. You put your hands up just like you were being robbed by anybody else. And he starts putting his hands in your pockets, feeling you around. Then he says, do you mind if I search your vehicle? You have your mouth closed, so he cannot get that consent from you. So he can't. If he does go ahead and enter your vehicle, well, now he's trespassing. He doesn't have a warrant. If he says, you mind if I check your pockets? If you keep your mouth closed and he puts his hands in your pockets and gets something out of your pocket, well, now he just trespassed into your person, into your body. He did that without a warrant. So if he takes you and puts you into the back of his vehicle and decides that he's going to arrest you, well, what is he arresting you for? You haven't admitted anything.
Right.
And the list basically goes on and on. If they take you all the way into court, they take you in front of a judge, and the judge starts asking you questions, and you keep your mouth closed. Well, they don't even know who you are. You know, they haven't gotten a driver's license from you. Oh, but they pull a driver's license out of your pocket without your consent. So now they have your name, and they're trying to accuse you of being whoever you are, but they never had your consent to get your driver's license. All that information was obtained without a warrant and without your consent. So you can see that they can actually build a case against you on information that they obtained without your consent and without authority, without any kind of an even pretend warrant.
I do see that. I do see that. My question would be in that whole scenario, and I think you lay out the case perfectly for why you really should keep your mouth shut and offer nothing, offer absolutely no information, don't give them any help in making a case against you. Now, I mean, what in this scenario, you know, you have the emergency lights on. You know, what do we hear all the time? What do they call that when they pull you over or they decide to search your vehicle even without your permission? We're always hearing it's probable cause. They have probable cause to do this. What do you say to this argument?
Well, they only have probable cause on those men or women that they have authority over. Now, the reason that the policeman comes up to your vehicle and he wants to see your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance, and all that is because he wants to establish the fact that you were driving. If you do not show him any of those things, how is he going to prove that you were driving? You see the problem? I
do indeed.
So what I tell people is when you get pulled over, and this I actually did in one stop that I was involved in, you take your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance, the things that you know they're going to be asking you for, you put it upside down so it cannot be read on your dash. And when the policeman comes to you and you ask him, you know, I don't mind talking to them a little bit.
Right.
And I say, yes, officer, what's the emergency? And, you know, he may ignore you. And you say, well, I see your lights were on. What's the emergency? and he's gonna, if he wants to be one of those Nazi type of cops, he's just gonna keep repeating his line. And you say, oh, well, I don't understand what you want, but I see you're armed, and what you want, if you believe you have the right to get what you want without a warrant and just purely force, it's right there on the dash. And if you want to trespass,
wait a minute. Okay, leave it there, because I need to hear. You said you've actually done this or been involved in a scenario where this went down. I want to hear how this turned out. We're going to take our last break of the program. We're going to be back with Freeman Burt in More to Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes. Hang tight. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. This is our final segment for tonight's program, and we have Freeman Burt on. And when we went to break, he was telling us about an example that he was involved with, where a policeman pulled him over, and you put the items you knew that was going to be, asked for, I guess, if you want to call it a question, license, registration, proof of insurance. And you would tell us the line you told him once again, or that was said once again.
Yeah, well, when the officer approached the window, I handed him my fee schedule, and it's just a schedule with all kinds of rights that if they're violated, they have to pay you so much for violating them. And as he was holding on to it, he said, "Oh, what's this?" And I said, "Well, that's to prevent me from being kidnapped and to protect me from people like you." And then he says, "Oh, you do a lot of research on the internet?" And I said, "Well, what you're holding there is more than research. That's actually the law." And he's like, that's interesting. And then then before I had a chance to tell him my line about if you think you have the right to trespass into my vehicle, what you're asking for is there on the dash, he actually reached in and grabbed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I never gave it to him. So he grabbed it without my consent. So I never gave him the driver's license. That's one thing. You never want to give the driver's license, because when you hand over the driver's license, you're saying that you're driving instead of making use of the highway. And another point that I want to pass.
Wait a minute. I want to know what happened. What did he end up letting you go, or
Oh no, he came back and gave me the ticket. He said I was speeding, which I don't see how I was, but anyway, it doesn't matter. He gave me the ticket, and then he was gonna give me back the fee schedule. And I said, "Oh no, that's for you to keep." And he says, "Oh well, okay, I'll file it with the ticket." I'm like, "Oh well, that'd be a great help for me. Thanks a lot." And he actually filed it with the ticket, my fee schedule. So my fee schedule went through their whole system attached to the ticket.
Well, he obviously, from his comment from the get-go, "Oh, do a lot of research on the internet, do you?" It harkens back to some of the warnings that law enforcement had put out over the last several years about people who claim to be, they claim the MIAC report, anything and everything from Ron Paul supporter to asserting your freedom are things to watch out for. And automatically when you said that comment, that's the first thing that popped into my mind is he's probably warned about rebel rousers such as yourself that want to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, but the guy was actually pretty cool. He was pretty nice, very, as far as, having someone standing over you with a gun, he was pretty nice,
Yeah, but it's still the point that, everything you just said there, he's standing over there, and you and I talked during the break about, I've been to Denver a lot, and, the only experience I've ever had with police down there, the guy was an absolute, gentleman, and he actually helped my girlfriend change a tire because it blew out. And I had to take a cab to that location, and he went farther than most people, police or otherwise, would go. But I said he was a super nice guy, and you had even said that some of your friends that are police said, yeah, most of them are, but there's a percentage that are not, and any percentage that are not that have the ability to enforce or to inflict bodily harm onto you to enforce their will upon you, it is too much.
Yeah, and this is the point that I really want to pass on to you, listen, because this could actually may save a few lives of people out there. Okay, when you get pulled over and there's emergency lights behind you, if you have a cell phone with you and if you have recording equipment, of course you want to turn it on so that it will record the event. But what you want to do is you want to call 911 right away. And this is going to do two very important things for you. It's going to, number one, record the event for you, okay? And as soon as that policeman comes to the window, you let that officer know, say, oh, by the way, sir, I see there's an emergency. I have 911 on the line. What is the emergency, sir? You just put him in a really tricky spot because he's going to have to say, oh, there's not an emergency. I'm trying to make contact with you. That's what they call it. But it's also going to play another important role, letting him know that you have 911 on the line, is that it's going to bring the level of whatever that policeman may have been in prior to making contact with you down to a professional level. So it's going to basically help calm him down, knowing that there is another officer basically listening to what's going on. And that right there, could save your life if you have a crazy cop approaching you. If you let him know, hey, by the way, 911's on the line, and then you tell the 911 operator, say, I wish for you to stay on the line because I do not feel safe right now. I'd like you to stay on the line until this contact is completed. And I've had people tell me this about the 911, and I was like, man, I can't believe I never thought about that.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, it completely changes the dynamic of what's about to occur.
Totally, and it gives you that safety cushion. You have a third person now.
And they're obligated. The 911 is obligated to comply. It's not like they can hang up. You're calling them saying, I do not feel safe. I have an armed policeman coming my way, and he's declared there's an emergency, and I don't know what's going on.
Well, now he's telling me there is no emergency, so I don't know if he's impersonating or if something is not right, but he just told me that there's not an emergency. So I don't understand. I'm confused. Please stay on the line. I'm in danger right now.
Do you actually know anybody who's done this?
Oh, yeah. Two guys. They're the ones who told me about this, and I was like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, what was the result? I mean,
the result was the policeman was very, in both situations, they were very calm, very professional, down to the point. I mean, they didn't push the issue of asking the cop if there was an emergency,
Mm-hmm.
They just did it for their safety, because both of these instances was at night,
Yeah.
And they just told the officer, by the way, I have 911 on the line, and that's all. They just told that to the cop, and the cop proceeded. And they still got tickets,
Right.
But at least
the question is the key to that, though, right? I mean, the question of feign surprise if you want to or whatever, but the question of what is the emergency? I have 911 on the line, and go as if to hand them the phone, that forces them to address that question. It forces them to answer you, or answer you in the affirmative or negative that there is or is not an emergency.
Well, that's true, but my main point about calling 911 is for your safety, not to prove a point. It's for your safety. It's a good idea to call 911 because you're playing Russian roulette when you get pulled over, and you're not even choosing to play that game. And the bullet in the chamber is that policeman. You don't know what you're getting in the chamber.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a dangerous game.
Well, and if your friends have told you it's 10% or bad, that's not great odds,
Not at all. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And but anyway, the bigger picture of this whole thing is that we've all been misled into thinking that we are citizens, which makes us servants of the servants. And it's the other way around. We are actually the ones that hold all the power. And when we go to court or we confront policemen or whatever, if we know where we are, which is standing on the land, which is outside of the District of Columbia, then we can make our point respectfully and honestly, and give the policeman a choice. If he continues to try to enforce his jurisdiction on you, then you're going to challenge him in some kind of a court, and you're going to demand remedy from him. You want to make that clear.
With 1 minute left, I want to ask you this: Did the cop that snatched your license, registration, insurance, or whatever was up on the dash without your permission, did you follow up on that in the process of answering that ticket?
No, I did not, because that actually, this could be a whole new conversation. But that exchange triggered a meeting between the FBI, an investigator for the sheriff department, and myself. They were very curious about the paperwork that I was handing.
Are you kidding? Oh, yeah. Well, okay. Well, let's bring that up with a minute left. Was it they were concerned because you were standing up for yourself? And again, looking back at recent history, they're terrified of people who want to stand up and assert their freedom.
Yes, I had a conversation with them for almost 2 hours. They bought me coffee.
And well, we're going to get you next time we get you on. We're going to talk about that conversation because you're being very vague. I mean, is it something you're allowed? I mean, obviously you're allowed to talk about this or whatever. It
was just a conversation. It was in public in a restaurant. We were conversing. It was no big deal. But they were curious about what I was doing, because with the paperwork that the policeman took with him.
Did they agree with you?
He took on the liability.
Right. But did they see your point? Did they see what you were doing?
Oh, yes, especially the FBI agent.
All right. Well,
she understood everything I was doing.
Burt, we're going to leave it there. Next time you're on, though, make a mental note that that's where we're going to kick off the program with, because I want, very few people that we've had on the program have actually had a call from the FBI because of they had the courage to stand up for themselves. Freeman Burt, his YouTube channel is Do Not Consent 83. Do Not Consent 83. Just go to YouTube, type in that, and please subscribe to him. He puts out a lot of great information there.